Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are definitively trending everywhere. All across the world, people watched my debate with Rabbi Shmuley. In fact, it crossed 1 million views in the first 16 hours. Unbelievably impressive for any YouTube video, yet alone a debate between me and a rabbi. And you know what's so great about this is I obviously did not speak about this on my podcast leading up to the debate, but I was just being, as I have been for the last 2 years, completely harassed by Rabbi Shmuley, calling me every single name leading up to the debate. And of course, the media encourages his behavior. He's allowed to write for publications. No one ever comes down on him and tells him that he's unhinged. It's only me. Candace is completely falling apart. Rabbi Shmuley, I guess he's got it all together. And so you're going to love this. Let me show you guys how it started. Yep, this is an actual headline in the Jerusalem Post. It reads, Shmuley Boteach vows to destroy Candace Owens in upcoming Piers Morgan debate. Ooh, the hype. And here is how it's going, ladies and gents. The #1 trend on Twitter, Candace Owens triumphs over Rabbi Shmuley. Not that it was hard, but let me tell you something crazy, which I did not expect, way from out of left field. RFK Jr., formerly the presidential hopeful. He has obviously gotten behind President Trump. That is a good thing. Well, apparently he was one of a very small group of people who watched the interview and thought, yeah, Candace is in the wrong here. Candace is in the wrong. I see, you guessed it, anti-Semitism. You're not going to believe what he actually tweeted about the back and forth, because he's got to take a stance, I guess, on behalf of his former advisor, Rabbi Shmuley. So we're going to wait to hear what he had to say. Plus, later on in the show, I'm going to be diving into, I'm sure you're seeing this Lauren Chen, Tenant Media story, saying that she has been let go from the Blaze because she's somehow accepted money and there's Russian influence in our politics. I can't wait to tell you guys my opinion on that, because I am chronically disappointed in the right. It's why I am so bored with politics. And you guessed it, my opinion is that everything is indeed fake and gay. That's what we have coming up on Candace. All right, before we get into RFK Jr., I at first do want to show you my favorite moments from the back and forth with Rabbi Shmuley. I was going to show it to you yesterday, but I didn't want to scoop Piers. Obviously, it's his show, and I wanted to make sure that he got the viewership that he deserved for hosting us. And I was very grateful to Piers. We've had our moments in the past, but he at least allowed me to explain myself and to counter all the things that Rabbi Shmuley was saying, which was just increasing ad hominem attacks. That's all that really happens, by the way. If you at all critique Israel, you just face an onslaught of ad hominem attacks in the media, online. And like I say, there's a very tight-knit group of Zionist media members and their influencers who constantly and consistently and purposefully take you out of context, right? Which is so dishonest. It's not necessary to routinely lie and take people out of context, especially when you do that and deem yourself to be God's chosen people. Like you're lying full time while telling the public that you're God's chosen people. That doesn't sit right with me. But there's this one moment that is just so incredible. I know that you guys have seen it, but please allow me to play it and pay attention to my face, because I had no idea, just so you know, backstory. I assumed that I was going to get ganged up on and called an anti-Semite. I never expected that Piers Morgan was going to actually have the tape from what I literally said many years ago on the topic of Adolf Hitler and nationalism, just after Shmuley had lied and tried to smear me as somebody who supported Adolf Hitler. And it really is one of the best moments, plausibly on YouTube, for all of this year. So let's take a look at Rabbi Shmuley getting caught red-handed trying to smear me. Take a listen.
And when she said in 2018 that she has no issue with Hitler because if he was a nationalist, but then he wanted to go beyond her borders, even then we didn't call her an anti-Semite. That's an absurd thing to say, that you had no issue with Hitler. Hitler, even domestically by then, had enacted all the Nuremberg laws. There was already the November 9th, 1938 pogrom that we called Kristallnacht. And she said,
just to clarify, let's take these one at a time. What do you believe she said about Adolf Hitler in the clip you're talking about?
She said that there was no issue with Hitler except for the fact that he went beyond his borders. If he was a nationalist, that would have been enough.
Let me play the clip.
His domestic. No, but my point is, no one called her. My point is,
in the interest of fairness, I'm going to play the clip so that viewers who've never heard it can hear what actually got said.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, in at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism. In thinking about how it could go bad down the line, I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't. I think that it's okay. It's important to retain your country's identity and to make sure that what's happening here, which I think is incredibly worrisome in terms of the decrease in the birth rate that we're seeing in the UK, is what you kind of want to avoid. So I don't have I have no problems with nationalism. It's globalism that I try to avoid.
So, Candace, on that specific point, would you say that Rabbi Shmuley has categorized it correctly or not?
He's just openly lying, and that's why he didn't want you to play the clip. I was in the UK, by the way. I was at the Royal Mobile Club. There were Jewish journalists in the room, and nothing was written about it until months later when somebody was working on a hit piece about me. I was answering a question when they were saying, how can we just embrace the word nationalism when it sort of has this dirty feel? And I was just essentially saying that I actually don't have an issue with nationalism. I think it's totally fine to be a British nationalist, to be an American nationalist. And the problem is that it's wrongly attributed. That word, I think people instantly associate it with Adolf Hitler. And I would argue that he wasn't actually a nationalist because obviously he invaded Poland and he went beyond German borders. I didn't even mention Jewish people. I didn't mention the Holocaust. And suddenly you have people like Rabbi Shmuley who are pretending that I got up there and I defended Adolf Hitler. It's just, this isn't good business. And this is why I say right now, please don't cut me off. Please do not cut me off. A huge issue that you have right now is this dishonesty. If you really want to understand why Israel is facing a PR crisis, why Zionism right now to people doesn't feel good and they don't want to associate themselves with it, is because it seems like it takes so many lies to maintain. There's no reason to misrepresent what I said and to tell people that I support Adolf Hitler, other than the fact that you want people to hate me. I can't explain to you how much I was bursting at that moment. Like you see, I look up from the computer and I realize that he actually has the clip, and I have had to endure this for years. So despite what Shmuley is saying there, where he goes, you know, nobody said anything. Are you kidding me? The Simon Wiesenthal Center issued a statement condemning me for supporting Adolf Hitler. Of course, they intentionally stripped that clip out of its context. Still, you don't even hear if the audience member was asking. They were asking me and Charlie Kirk, as we were Trump supporters on stage, and that people who support Trump are nationalists, and is that okay to embrace that as a Trump supporter, this sort of MAGA agenda, make America great again, and say that you're a nationalist and you want to focus on America? And I said, yeah, if that was all any leader wanted to do, was focus on making their country great, and they said they were a nationalist, that would not be problematic. And yet they took that and they lied about that and they smeared me. And you get to see him do it live. I love reading your live chat right now. You guys are saying that Rabbi Shmuley looks like Satan. You're saying that he looks vile. He looks evil. And I'm not even trying to say this in a mean way, but that is objectively true. I say this all the time. The eyes are the window to the soul. When you do things like he does, when you engage in this sort of media spin and you try to ruin somebody's character, right? And you know you're lying. He knew he was lying. That's why he didn't want the clip played. No. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Because you are ruining people's lives. You are getting people fired from places on the basis of lives because you're truly possessed by evil. You believe that people are forced to accept your narratives. Basically, if you have a disagreement with you, I will crush you and I will ruin you, says the man who claims that he's one of God's chosen people. 2 years of harassment from him and his hag daughter, claiming to be God's chosen people. So God wants me to ruin you, to annihilate you, to harass you, to call the FBI and blame pizza on you because I'm chosen. Do you think the public is going to accept that? Do you think that when the public watches that and they hear him lie and they hear what I actually said and they hear where my heart was when I said it, there's not going to be a worldwide reaction to recognizing that what I have been saying all along is very true? There is a radical strand of Zionism in the media. It is radical. It is nasty. And these people need to start being called out. It is unfair. I am grateful that I have survived these attacks, that the people have trusted me more than ever. I'm grateful that people like Tucker survived these attacks when a couple of days ago they're telling us he's a Nazi apologist. Like Tucker Carlson is suddenly a Hitler apologist simply because he had a conversation with a historian they didn't want heard. But not everybody does survive it, is the point. This is the reason why I talk about it. When they go, oh my God, you're so obsessed. Yes, you're right. Because there are so many people who have had their lives ruined because of these lies. It's not right. And now we're starting to see the pendulum swinging back because people are fighting and people are revealing this sort of hatred and this sort of evilness. Another moment that I do not want you to miss, and it is quite stunning. Okay, you don't remember this? Oh, last couple of weeks, they've been lying, saying Candace says Judaism is pedocentric, completely made up. Obviously, Shmuley went ahead and tried to sell that to the public as well. What I don't want you to miss is that when I presented to him a fact that had been reported by all of the Israeli media publications, by CBS News, about the bizarre amount of pedophiles that are fleeing to Israel for protection, how it is providing a haven over in Israel. American pedophiles can escape and just go, I'm an Israeli citizen now. I'm not going back to America to face charges after I raped a child. And that is something that everybody should be upset about. You know, Jewish people do not want their children raped either. Could you imagine being a parent to a child that was raped by a man and then he fled to a foreign country that your tax dollars are going to support? And it's an easy layup. It's an easy layup. Here's the ball, Rabbi Shmuley. It's wrong to protect pedophiles. Oh, and he just could not dunk that ball. Take a listen. Now, regarding what he is saying that I said Judaism is filled with pedophiles, that is objectively a nonsense. I am a Christian. I'm aware of what the first 5 books of my Bible are. That would be me insinuating that, okay, well, the first 5 books of my Bible are inspired by pedophilia. That's absolutely false. What I said, and I'm hopeful that this is something that the rabbi will agree with, is that it is a fact that Jewish pedophiles, American Jewish pedophiles, escape and run and hide in Israel, where they are given safe harbor by the government. That is a fact. They will not extradite our pedophiles. That is an absolute nonsense, given the many billions of dollars that we give to Israel that we can't get back the men that are raping children, okay? And I can't imagine a single person that would think otherwise, that is not a nonsense and that we should not be giving back those pedophiles. And to be clear, it wasn't Candace Owens who researched and came up with this. It was an incredible Jewish organization that looked into this, talked about how wrong it was, and brought it into the mainstream media. If you don't like that Israel is harboring pedophiles, that's not on me. That is on the state of Israel. Okay, again, I am condemning the state of Israel for harboring American pedophiles and not extraditing them. Do you have a disagreement there, Rabbi? If so, please share.
Thank you, Candace. Not only is that an absolute lie and fabrication against Israel.
Okay, first and foremost, I just want to debunk your claim that what I said was a lie. It is in CBS News, and it was the Jewish Community Watch, an American organization that tracks accused pedophiles, who has been trying for years to find a specific pedophile. They are the ones that brought this to the forefront, and CBS News partnered with them.
What's the name of the pedophile? What's the name of that pedophile? I just gave you a name, Malka Laufer. What's the name of that pedophile?
Well, they were tracking down a pedophile named Carow. Jimmy Julius Carow.
How many people they allowed?
No,
how many cardinal archbishops
can't cut me off.
Protected?
Please don't cut me off. Please don't cut me off. You told a lie, and so I'm debunking it live for you. The pedophile who they were tracking down was Jimmy.
What's the name?
I'm trying to say it for the 3rd time. His name is Jimmy Julius Carow.
You're looking it up right now?
The title of the article.
You mean you said all this and you had no idea?
The title of the article in CBS News is entitled "How Jewish American Pedophiles Hide from Justice in Israel." CBS News teamed up with a Jewish organization and came to this conclusion because they were the ones that brought it to the forefront. So courageous Jewish people who are calling this out as something that is wrong. Jewish Community Watch is the name of the organization. So we've heard about tribalism, okay? And I want to know, what tribe is this? Because let me be very clear. You could never attach me to my identity in any way, as a woman, as a Black person, that I would be so extreme that my instinct would be to defend pedophiles. It's unbelievable. Like that part really just did not make its way around the internet enough. People were pulling clips and I was going, but this is actually the most crucial part because it's exactly what I am talking about. That we are speaking about tribalism and fanaticism that has gone so extreme that the instinct is to scream and yell and smear and libel the individual who is bringing the fact to the public. A fact that everyone should agree on. Pedophiles should be tried. People who rape children should be tried. Their instinct is to attack Candace Owens for saying it, rather than turning to the state of Israel and saying, you know what, we give you way too much money. You're not getting a single dollar until you extradite these monsters so that these parents to these children can deal with this trauma, can feel as if they received some justice in the end. Those children are never going to be the same again. Could you imagine what it is like when you then have to deal with the double fact? You also have to deal with not just the trauma of having been raped by a pedophile, but you then have to deal with the fact that you know exactly where that person is and no justice is being brought to that individual. And then you have to add to that more insult is that when you get older and you become an adult and you start working, your tax dollars are going to go to support that nation that won't extradite that pedophile who molested you. In what world is anything that I'm saying right now controversial? In what world do you have an individual who will get up there and not only defend it, lie, right? Omission, trying to hide the facts, trying to obscure it. But then that individual is backed by presidential candidates. I'm not kidding, but we're going to get to that. We're going to get to RFK Jr.'s response. After watching all of this, his response was that Rabbi Shmuley clearly in this is the victim. Yeah, it's just anti-Semitism. It's out of control, guys. It's coming out of everybody right now. It's unbelievable. It's obviously Jew hatred. Why else would you want a pedophile to come face charges? It could be nothing else other than Jew hatred. It's nonsense. It's an utter nonsense. And so I'm so happy that I was given the opportunity to present to the world what is actually happening in this country, because they're seeing all the lies, they're seeing all the smears, but you can't unsee that back and forth between me and Rabbi Shmuley. And so now when those hit pieces register and they use these same tactics against more and more people, they're going to be asking themselves, oh, okay, is this what Candace was talking about? Is this exactly what I got to watch live? The lying and feeling nothing? Children of Satan lie like that, okay? You cannot be a child of God and not feel something when you lie. Despite all of the hideous things that he was throwing my way and the things that he was saying about me that were untrue, I couldn't do it back to him. I couldn't just make stuff up about Rabbi Shmuley, because spiritually I would be in conflict. He is not spiritually in conflict when he does that. It's natural to him. That's why I say for some people, it seems to be a genetic disorder. It's like they lie as if it's natural for them. Like they feel good after they lie in the way that most people feel relieved after they tell the truth. They feel relieved after they lie. They love being deceptive. They love threatening people. They love blackmailing people. They love to watch people suffer. Truly. Him and his hag daughter, they love suffering, the giggling, the laughing. You guys have seen it, the sneering when they thought that Candace is over. Oh yeah, we're coming for you. That's not normal. That is in fact demonic. And so I will forever use my platform to speak against moral injustice. Like I said, at the beginning of this thing, these people supported me when it was against my own community. That was lauding criminality. That was applauding and trying to make messiahs out of people like George Floyd. And I said, this is wrong, because it was wrong. And I've always had the moral clarity to see right versus wrong. And now that the attention has shifted and the focus is on Israel, we're seeing the exact same tactics, the exact same BLM tactics to try to smear people and use the media hand to do that, when people, again, have the same clarity and say what is happening over here is wrong. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic before I show you what RFK Jr. said, which is truly just amazing. First and foremost, I want to throw it to Tax Network USA, because I know there are so many people that owe back taxes. Pandemic relief is now over, along with the hiring of thousands of new IRS agents and field officers. The IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your right and speak with them on your own. They are not your friends. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay or on a fixed income, they can help finally resolve your tax burdens. So call 1-800-985-1000 for a private free consultation, or you can visit tnusa.com/Candace. Again, that's tnusa.com/Candace. RFK Jr. coming in hot. I don't know what to say, ladies and gents. I just didn't expect it. First and foremost, I want to be very clear. I like RFK Jr. because of the work that he did on vaccines. So he will always hold a place in my heart, because when I made the decision, or when I was realizing that everything that I had ever been told about vaccines was a lie after I got vaccine injured, and I went to the internet when I was pregnant for the first time, and I was like, I don't want to vaccinate our kids, to my husband, there was virtually nothing on the web. You couldn't find anything. And RFK Jr. really did put his reputation on the line, him and Andrew Wakefield, to create a wonderful organization called Children's Health Defense, which provided all of the information that I was looking for to sort of defeat the fear narrative, where doctors are telling you, you don't know the information, we know it, you're dumb, you're a parent. And I felt empowered by his work. So I don't want to just completely denounce him or say this guy's all, he's not an all bad person. In fact, that it's really incredibly hard to stand up to the medical mafia, and he did it. He's done it consistently for years. So we know that he has this streak within him that is quite brave. It really is. So I want to say something very nice about RFK Jr., as I have many times on the show. Now, I was never going to vote for him because I didn't agree with some of his other takes. He is, whether you want to look at it or not, he is a liberal. And on some points, he is even left-leaning. But there were tons of people who really liked him. Definitely, I would say moms in the conservative movement really took to him. My buddy Dave Smith really liked him, had him on the show. And he seemed to have a anti-war stance, so to speak, but not strangely, and I shouldn't even say strangely anymore, on the topic of Israel. It was kind of like his one area where he lacked consistency. So I'm just going to kind of remind you of that by showing you a couple of clips from his sit down with Dave Smith, who's a libertarian. He's consistent, does not like war at all, wants us to just not go to war for 6 months. It's like, can any candidate just agree to not go to war for 6 months? And usually candidates can't do that. So take a listen to Dave Smith and RFK Jr. back when RFK Jr. was running.
Do you have, I don't agree with that, but okay. Do you have concerns about the level of Israeli influence in our politics here in the United States of America?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a politician in political office, so I don't see much of that.
So you don't think like, so in after 9/11.
I mean, listen, I think everybody has, that there's so many malevolent influences on Capitol Hill, and they include many nations, and they include many, corporate entities. Oh, and I want to have a real democracy in our country where you get the money out of politics and the influence out of politics. That's what I would like, and have publicly funded elections. Oh, I don't think anybody, but do I think the Israelis have more influence than others? David, I believe in supporting Israel, that it's important for the United States. And you and I can disagree on that. I believe our aid to Israel of $4 billion a year is designed to keep the peace over there.
So there you have it. And we're seeing this, by the way, across the board, left and right. And I think the American people are starting to wake up to that there just seems to be this weird thing that nobody in politics will critique Israel at all, no matter what. And it's difficult for us to understand that. Are we a sovereign nation is the question that we are now openly asking, right? What is happening here? This shouldn't be that complicated. We talk about every other nation. We talk about every other nation's leaders, and nobody cares. You're allowed to do it. But there's this weird gray area. Now watch this segment. This is a part of the same conversation because Dave gets quite fired up about this. He's really just fired up. When are we going to be able to just have a country that focuses on America first for real? Not like America first unless, or America first sometimes, like actually like America first. Can we mind our own business and be a little isolationist for a while? Take a listen.
But David,
can I get one presidential candidate who doesn't want to support a foreign war? Can I get one presidential candidate who will say 6 months without war?
David, you already said that you don't believe that those Palestinians or their offspring have a right to return. You just said that to me. So I
No,
think
I didn't
we
say
agree on
I
that.
didn't say that. I think it would be nice if some of them were allowed to, but I don't think that's really what the battle's over. I think what the battle is over is the occupation since 1967, the blockade of Gaza since 2006, and I think what the battle is really over right now is what Israel is doing to Gaza, absolutely leveling the place, and all the while bragging about how they want to okay, I don't know. They want to move the population. Well, Netanyahu is going, and I know you can say you're a critic of Netanyahu, but you support Israel. But at the same time, it's like the guy is the longest serving prime minister and the current prime minister of the country. So if you're supporting the country, you kind of are supporting, at least to some degree, what he's doing right now. And it is unconscionable. It is the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world right now. And the idea that you, who are supposed to be the anti-neocon, anti-war presidential candidate, are immediately on October 7th, before we even had an investigation, before we even knew what happened there, you immediately say, what basically you said everything they say about Ukraine. You said it was an unprovoked attack, which, like, come on, give me a break. An attack from Gaza against Israel is unprovoked. And then you said, we have to support them in whatever it takes. Well, look, sir, we're watching it right now. This is whatever it takes. Just women and children dying under rubble. Every day you can't go on social media without seeing another video of some baby dying. This is what we're supposed, after the last 20 years of disastrous wars, we got to support the next one. I mean, sir, this is like a biblical level of evil. And why? Why should we as Americans have to fund this? Why should we have to give them a blank check? I'm sorry, it's been long enough.
So you hear all that compassion in Dave Smith's voice. And so obviously the only logical conclusion is that he, because he's Jewish, Dave Smith, is a self-hating Jew. This is like where when you get to the end and there is no argument, the media just starts calling people self-hating whatever. So like during BLM, when I was going, this is not good for Black people, obviously. Black people are getting arrested. Black people don't have a right to steal a flat screen TV because George Floyd died in Minnesota. Self-hating Black person, right? Which means we have no arguments against any of the valid points she's bringing up. We have no arguments against the economic points that she's bringing up. We have no arguments against the fact that we are actually burning down inner city Black communities. So she's a self-hating Black person. And they did this to Dave Smith, right? So now Dave Smith is just a self-hating Jew. Whenever you hear that, know that the person that is saying that has no other arguments. They're a fraud, right? As soon as someone says self-hating, insert, just say, you are a fraud, okay? So Dave Smith gets that treatment. He's not the only one, by the way. Norm Finkelstein gets that treatment. He starts talking compassionately about Palestinians. Self-hating Jew, Holocaust survivor, by the way. His parents were Holocaust survivors, pardon. I think he was a baby. And he's a self-hating Jew. Can be the only logical conclusion. When you have nothing else left, that's what you throw at people. And so it's incredible. The whole world watched me debate Rabbi Shmuley. They watched him come completely undone. They watched him lie. They watched him manipulate. And shockingly, the one thing that he didn't actually rebut was my opening statement. When I talked about Jewish fanaticism, when I talked about the fact that there are radicals in the Jewish community, like there are radicals in every single community, he sort of left it alone when I brought up his mentor, Rabbi Schneerson, who some radicals believe was and is the Jewish Messiah. He kind of left that alone. He left it alone. So RFK Jr., after the fact, took to Twitter to write this. This is just stunning, given the actual interview that we all just watched. Can you bring up his tweet? RFK Jr. wrote, during her interview on Piers Morgan, Candace Owens referred to what she termed radical Judaism and characterized the iconic Lubavitcher Rebbe Menachem Schneerson as someone who preached Jewish supremacism and hatred of all non-Jews. These words are a sickening, a manifestly inaccurate description of a revered holy man who was respected and beloved by people of all faiths. Rabbi Schneerson preached a message of unadulterated love, tolerance, respect, and universal justice for all of humanity. My father considered him a spiritual mentor and sought his advice on diverse issues of morality and ethics. He once visited the Rebbe at 2 o'clock in the morning. As Americans, we need to distance ourselves from the troubling rise in anti-Semitism. We need unity in our country, not divisiveness. That's what Rabbi Schneerson stood for. Yes, we must distance ourselves from the concrete facts plus the name of the Jewish authors who I told you could read to discover these concrete facts. In fact, the Jewish, Israeli, Hebrew speaking and reading authors were clearly just anti-Semitic. How dare Candace share their book and share their words? How dare Candace say, hey, they were able to actually interpret because they understood the rabbi when he was speaking Hebrew, not RFK Jr., who randomly decided to pick Rabbi Shmuley as an advisor to his campaign. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Now that you have watched Rabbi Shmuley, the dishonesty, the deception, think about what it signals to you that RFK Jr. picked him as an advisor. An advisor to what? RFK Jr. is trying to sell to you that the problem in that back and forth was me quoting Jewish authors, Israeli, Jewish, Hebrew-speaking authors who interpreted the work. And when they interpreted the work, by the way, of Rabbi Schneerson, they said you weren't allowed to do that. And that was what was part of the problem. They were saying that there was radicalism that was breaking out in Israel. They were calling it the Jewish fundamentalist movement, right? The Lubavitch in Brooklyn, what do we remember that from as of recent? Oh, I think I remember that we were told from the Jewish media that this was a radical fringe of people who were adherent to Rabbi Schneerson, who think that he is the Messiah and he is going to return, dug a tunnel and were throwing chairs at police. Let's take a look at this video. Do you guys remember this? Remember this video? Well, I just want to be clear, just you watching this video of them coming out of the tunnels, digging the tunnels, yelling at police officers, just for watching it and observing that this is radical, this is like watching BLM destroy property, that makes you an anti-Semite. That's literally the logic right now that he's trying to sell to the public, that being aware that Jewish fanaticism exists is what makes you anti-Semitic, because how dare you, my daddy has a photo with him. What? I mean, what kind of logic is that? Rebut the points that I presented to the public. You can't. So that's why he just calls it a name. We must stand against anti-Semitism. That's what we must do. Did he say anything about Catholicism? Because I'm pretty sure the Rabbi Shmuley was talking tons of crap about Catholics yesterday. Oh, no, nobody cares. Christians, doesn't matter. Right? You can always insult Christians. You can always insult the Catholic faith. No one takes a stance. No one writes a brave tweet and goes, oh my, I can't believe she said that she knows what he actually preached. And I'm going to tell you more about that. I'm going to give you some direct quotations. And again, this is according to Israel Shahak. Okay. He wrote a book, two Jewish historians wrote a book, and I wanted to tell you who Israel Shahak is, this guy that you're seeing on the screen. He was a resident of the Warsaw Ghetto and a survivor of the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. He arrived in Palestine in 1945, lived there until his death in 2001. He was an outspoken critic of the state of Israel and a human rights activist. And so, yes, he co-wrote the book Jewish Fundamentalism. And I want to let you know what he actually wrote in that book. He wrote, quote, "There can no longer be any doubt that the most horrifying acts of oppression in the West Bank are motivated by Jewish religious fanaticism." Jewish fanaticism, as in when you see the videos of Jews in Israel spitting on Christians, we are told, well, those people are fanatics. Well, who are the fanatics and who are they following? Well, according to Israel Shahak and his co-author, they are following Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and these are the quotes that they put in their book. So if you'd like to rebut what they put, if your Hebrew is so on par that you can rebut this, RFK Jr., please do. But here are the quotes, the translated quotes. "There are two contrary types of souls that exist. A non-Jewish soul comes from the three satanic spheres, while the Jewish soul stems from holiness. Every Jew, men and even women and children," I think we have the clip of this, of him actually saying it, so there's no rebuttal here, brings about the existence of the entire creation. They become masters over the world, and thus every single creation owes them recognition for this good. Being that through the Jew all beings were created, he therefore becomes the master over all of them. Do you agree with these statements that you're listening to right now? Do you agree with these statements, which were published by a Jewish Holocaust survivor, not Candace Owens? The next one is the Jew is in complete control, particularly over physical matters. The physicality of the world itself has to recognize the good that the Jew has accomplished. Through the Jews, they came into being, and their true existence is through their unity with the true being. Since God and the Jews are one, each Jew becomes a true being and thus able to bring about all of creation. He, the Jew, therefore has control over all of creation. And not only that, but they owe him thanks and are indeed thankful. Now, you can go look all of this up all by yourself. You can buy this book and you can see how this guy says that they intentionally have mistranslated things or they choose not to translate things. And he speaks about this fundamentalist movement, again, the same fundamentalist movement that we watched in Brooklyn last year crawl out of tunnels. And then after you read all of that, I want you to go tweet at RFK Jr. and explain to him why he believes that Christians have to just accept, because his dad took a photo with this guy, that we just have to accept this sort of supremacy. Some people, oh, well, yeah, he said that, but it's like, in like the spiritual I reject it. I reject Jewish supremacy, black supremacy, white supremacy. I reject it, okay? I am so sick and tired of people that are constantly trying to train Christians to subjugate themselves. Like, oh my gosh, you have to, my dad took a picture with him. Obviously, he was a good guy because I got a photo of him. What? Seriously, what kind of logic is that? You're smarter than that, RFK Jr. I know you are. And to the extent that you actually believe and didn't have a figurative gun to your head by Rabbi Shmuley following this debate to tweet something, to the extent that you actually believe that I'm misrepresenting him, or rather that Holocaust survivors are anti-Semitic, right? Because that's actually the argument he's making. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Israel Shahak and his co-author. To the extent that you actually believe that these two people are anti-Semitic, I would love to challenge you on that. So I'm again offering publicly to debate you on the writings of Rabbi Schneerson. I'm happy to do that. Because we have to stop the nonsense of name-calling people. And you're not going to believe this, guys. And if you go in through this guy's Wikipedia page, Israel Shahak, after he died, they allege that he was, you guys know, you say it before I even say it, a self-hating Jew. Can't make it up. Even the Holocaust survivors they're self-hating Jews that are dabbling in anti-Semitic tropes. This is becoming a nonsense, everybody. You sense it, I sense it. But RFK Jr., I welcome you to have a conversation. As I said, I will always have respect for you for standing up to the medical mafia, but this is disrespectful to the Christian faith, okay? A photo is not enough to make words magically disappear. People say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but sometimes it's really not, and 1,000 words are worth 1,000 words. And that's all I'm going to say about that particular topic. All right, I want to get into this Lauren Chen story. But before we do, actually, I think that, do we have a sponsor here to read? Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys about PureTalk. Did you know that you can cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to PureTalk? PureTalk is a cell phone company that I use, and they only charge you for data that you actually want. For just $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data, plus a mobile hotspot. Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile want you to believe that you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. But the fact is that most of you are buying way too much data as it is, data that you will never need. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, you can stream 1,000 songs, or you can watch 10 hours of video. So stop overpaying for wireless and get 5G coverage with PureTalk. Switching is easy. There's no contract, no activation fee, and you can even keep your phone and your phone number. So go to puretalk.com/Owens. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month with PureTalk. Okay, Russian collusion, da-da-da-da-da, dun-dun-dun. It's always just the thing that we keep hearing about, and it's very stressful for me to watch these sorts of things take place on X because it just makes me lose faith in politics, and it reminds me that people in politics are terrible human beings, and you should probably not have relationships with any of them if you can avoid it. People, okay, so you're going to run for office? No, I'm running from office. Because there's just such bad people that are elected there. I don't know what happens, but everybody is just such a little snake. And there's no greater proof of this than, so here, let me give you quickly what happened. There's a company called Tenet Media, and they essentially just push videos that are from conservative-leaning people. And the DOJ has come out and is alleging that it was Russia that was funding that media company, which was linked to right-wing social media stars. That's the CNN headline. DOJ alleges that Russia funded the U.S. media company linked to right-wing social media stars. So they're describing it as a multi-million-dollar Russia-backed scheme to spread misinformation, okay, and sow political and cultural divisions ahead of the 2024 presidential election. and that it received millions of views. So that's it. They are trying to sow division because, like America, we're just all so unified that unless Russia spends money, like we're going to be like, no, we're like one big happy family. Like we love each other so much. So they got to spend money to make us hate each other, clearly. And of course, that word, misinformation. And they realize that Tenet Media, which wasn't actually in the story who owned it, but it's Lauren Chen. Lauren Chen, I've had her on my previous show many times, and her husband as well, Liam Donovan. They're saying those are the two people. And by the way, they're not being sued, okay? But they're saying that essentially they were the ones that hired the U.S. content creators who attract a large right-wing audience, and they've named who those people are. You've got influencer Benny Johnson, you're familiar with him. Dave Rubin, you're familiar with him. Tim Pool, you're familiar with him. So all of these people were getting paid by Tenet Media. How much money? Well, they're saying to the tune of $10 million, their content. They were just creating content, and they've received $10 million that actually in the background came from Russia. So obviously Russia has hacked our election. Now, if you aren't a theatrical brat on Twitter, immediately you kind of go, but wait, these people, how do their opinions help Russia? Dave Rubin? He's like staunchly anti-Russia. Why would they be funneling money to Dave Rubin, who is staunchly anti-Russia, radically, I would say, pro-Zionist? That doesn't really make sense. Tim Pool, also pro-Israel, definitely not a supporter of Russia. That's weird. Okay, Benny Johnson? I don't ever recall Benny Johnson being a supporter of Russia. I mean, maybe he's made some comments about how the war in Ukraine needs to end. But you're telling me that of all of the American commentators to pick, this is the bunch that they wanted to use Lauren Chen to funnel money to? Where is your proof? How does this help Russia? What are we saying here? So, of course, because the internet's got an internet and they say, well, Lauren Chen is the ringleader. She's the one who pulled in these people, and they're all denying it. They're saying like, yeah, they offered us money to essentially just take the content that we were already creating and license it. So I do my show. They pay us so that they can just have content on their website. Licensing deals are very typical, right? We're just going to license the content. But I'm not speaking in favor of Russia or any of the Russian agenda. I'm just doing my show as I normally do. So is Lauren Chen saying things that are pro-Russia? Well, no, they're saying that Lauren Chen, and this is just such dishonest interpretation of events that's ever happened. They're like, well, Lauren Chen is encouraging people not to vote for Trump. There's not a single video of Lauren Chen telling people not to vote for Trump. There are various tweets of Lauren Chen, like a lot of other conservatives, critiquing Trump. And just to be clear, you are allowed to critique. And actually, in a rational world, you should critique both candidates. But we don't live in a rational world. We live in a very tribal world. So if you say one critique about Trump, then I guess it means that you don't want Trump to get elected. And what was her critique? Well, her critique was that marijuana was bad. Okay, and that Trump shouldn't be jumping on board with marijuana policy. Her critique was that Trump shouldn't be in lockstep with reproductive rights. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we covered that, or last week, where the entire pro-life community, by the way, none of these people sponsored by Russia, were up in arms about what Trump said, not only about IVF, but what he said about reproductive rights, that his administration would be the best for reproductive rights. That caused a bit of a stir across the pro-life community. So since Lauren Chen was also one of the people that critiqued Trump for those two things, that's all the proof we need that she's obviously an agent of Russia and that she was doing this, even though she's not being charged, that she was doing this at the behest probably of Vladimir Putin. And conservatives have bid on this. They've actually bid on this. And it makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sick because first and foremost, anybody that knows Lauren Chen knows that she's a really decent, kind person. I'm talking in a personal capacity. I have no idea what's going on with this case. But to not even honor her with 24 hours to respond, like, who are we? Who actually are we? We're just the left. Right? You allowed the Biden administration to set the narrative that there's Russia collusion. And you want us to think that $9 million is what swayed the election because she critiqued Trump a couple of times about policies that, just to be clear, are not the most conservative things that we've ever heard. So you can be upset and you can say, oh, well, we're a couple of weeks before an election, don't say anything bad about him. But to pretend that she's trying to not get him elected when she routinely mocks Kamala Harris, like 90% of the time, she's mocking Kamala Harris, mocking the fact that Kamala Harris is trying to switch up for Black people, but we're looking for a reason to tie her to Russia. We are no better than the left. The thing about the left is at least They are tribal and they will defend their own. Like, at least like Hunter Biden can literally get caught smoking crack on a laptop and they're like, that's Russian disinformation. That's not him. You're like, wait, that he's literally butt naked smoking crack. They're like, look at this letter from intelligence agencies, not his butt, not his crack. You got to respect him for it, right? The right, oh man, you got to love it. It's like Game of Thrones. They love to see somebody fall. They absolutely love to see somebody fall, even if it's somebody who has objectively never done anything wrong to them. They're not even going to wait. They're like guilty until proven innocent. Goodbye, Lauren Chen. That's the reaction. And I just can't stand it. I think it's crap. Let her say something. Let her speak out. Don't know what the situation is whatsoever. But I do know for a fact that if you are an individual who is using your platform to comment about $9 million being spent somehow through a Canadian girl and Russia on a bunch of influencers who don't like Russia, if that's your critique, that this $9 million made the difference and clearly she was trying to help Trump not get elected by paying people that are pro-Trump, whatever, and you've been completely quiet about the fact that it was just announced that AIPAC spent $100 million on our election this year, I want you to know it's because you're a coward. Did you guys know that there once was a president? Speaking of hypocrisy, there once was a president named JFK, well-liked. In 1963, he had a little bit of a brush up with what was then known as the American Zionist Council. In June of that year, 1963, the American Council for Judaism issued a newsletter saying that they were being asked by the Justice Department to register as a foreign agent of the state of Israel. And they had Senate hearings, 2 Senate hearings that year, to look into Israeli foreign agents. And JFK was demanding, his DOJ was demanding for the AZC registration. They were like, you are a foreign agent of Israel. And the department wrote to them in October 11th of 1963, the DOJ wrote a demand to the AZC, the American Zionist Congress, to respond within 72 hours regarding them registering as a foreign agent. And guess what happened? He got shot. JFK got shot November 22nd, just a little over a month later, he got shot. And I guess that ended up working in their favor because then LBJ became president. And LBJ was very pro-Zionist organization because his mother was Jewish and his aunt, and this is, by the way, looking at a Jerusalem Post headline here, because I know I get in trouble for knowing these things. A friend indeed. New evidence reveals the incredible aid Lyndon Johnson lent the Jews. And from a direct quote from that article is, research into Johnson's personal history indicates that he inherited his concern for the Jewish people from his family. His Aunt Jessie Johnson Hatcher, a major influence on LBJ, was a member of the Zionist Organization of America, according to Gamalak. Aunt Jessie had nurtured LBJ's commitment to befriending Jews for 50 years. As a young boy, Lyndon watched his politically active grandfather, Big Sam, and his father, Little Sam, seek clemency for Leo Frank, the Jewish victim of blood libel in Atlanta. Fast forward today, AIPAC has just surpassed $100 million of spending on the 2024 election. But please let conservatives tell you how they really feel about the idea of foreign influence in our election, because everyone is such an honest, brave, courageous individual. And they're really going after Lauren Chen because this matters. This really matters to them. They just want to make sure there's no influence, no foreign influence in our elections. It makes me sick. It really does. It is just one of these things where I, like I said, have just become, I don't even want to say like agnostic. I don't want to say that I've grown apathetic, but I'm just less interested in politics these days because of this. Just seeing this sort, it's all fake. It's all just fake and gay. Everyone's a performer. Everyone's hateful towards one another, and they love to see each other get crushed, and nobody is ideologically consistent. Nope. It's just a Game of Thrones, I guess, so to speak. All right, guys, now I am going to get into some of your comments. Oh my gosh, I have the thing that has happened where my computer is giving me the rainbow spinny things, but I'm going to go ahead and start reading some of these comments that are already up on the screen. Actually, we're going to read the top comments under Piers's video, the Shmuley Candace debate. It's actually excellent. I loved it. This person wrote, the word anti-Semitism lost its meaning thanks to the rabbi. Agreed. And thanks to him and many others that are in the radical Zionist media circle. Linda Jan writes, after 2 years of bullying Candace, Shmuley gets offended that Candace clapped back and called him mentally ill. The cheek. Yeah, I know. The audacity of him to say that was really quite stunning. This person writes, quotation, Shmuley, I can insult you. You have to turn the cheek. If you don't, you are anti-Semitic. That's pretty much kind of been the world since post-October 7th. Like, you just have to take it. And if you stand up for yourself, you just get double the hatred, whatever. Erica Johnson writes, I'm a Black woman and have never, nor will I ever refer to Candace Owens as Candace. Yeah, he had so many names for me. Didn't he also call me like Candace Ovens? He's like, the Jewish community calls her Candace Ovens. I'm like, are they actually doing that? I don't think that's true. I don't think that that would be funny for a lot of Jewish people, but I don't know. That's what he said. Jacqueline writes, I've never seen a dude destroy himself in a debate quite as spectacularly as the rabbi here. Utter embarrassment. This next user writes, it's disturbing to me that this man calls himself a man of faith, let alone a rabbi. Mega writes, I think Rabbi Shmuley perfectly demonstrated the saying, the loudest in the room is usually the weakest. That's very true. And this user writes, he is mentally unhinged. She was right about that. He made her look like a saint. Hey, I am a saint. Just want to be clear. This person writes, it kills me how every single time this woman has debated a rabbi, they have never answered a question directly without attacking her. Yeah, I've got some questions. I mean, what are, and genuinely, like, what do you have to do to become a rabbi? Like, I just can't ever imagine like a Catholic priest doing that on TV, like screaming at someone that way, lying at them, getting caught in lies, and then gaslighting. And I'm just wondering, like, what are the requirements, I guess, so to speak. Then you have Omar, who writes, if I was part of the Jewish community, I would never want to see this guy on a screen again unless they're doing a documentary on mental patients. Yeah, remarkably, not a peep from the Zionist media that spent the last 3 weeks trying to convince everybody that I was having a mental breakdown. But on Rabbi Shmuley, he's clearly got it together. He's still in the in crowd. So this is the world that we live in. Jumping into some of your comments here, Tony writes, I'm not a big fan of Lauren Chen. She makes some good points, but she sows division. I like people that speak the truth and still try to create unity. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are maybe feeling lost in the process of politics. Like, and sometimes that comes across as you're not trying to fix things. You're not trying to bring people together. And I think I got there. I think that's kind of called taking the black pill. And I think last year I was there, probably at the beginning of last year. And then I feel like the more that I leaned into my faith, my perspective changed. And I just got a lot happier because I just kind of know in my heart that in the end we win. And that's the reality of it. And so if you've taken the black pill, I would like to suggest that you instead take the white pill. And to everybody that commented and watched the debate, I want to thank you guys. Especially want to thank everybody who is supporting the show and supporting my independence at locals.com. Give a gift. You can give a monthly gift or a one-time gift to keep us free. And because when we're free, we're happy. And for those of you that can, and you want to buy some merch, you can head to clubcandace.com. Either way, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to keep talking about politics. And hopefully when you watch my show, you feel positive at the end of the day and you feel like you're getting information that you can't hear anywhere else. And yeah, that's all I want to say. Always just incredibly grateful to all of you. And we'll see you tomorrow.